Welcome back to the High School Bekius program. Today we're doing Daladon Aleph and Moed Katan. Today's Gemara has five main points, and they're all related to how you allow to water a field on Chol Moed. And the general principle is you're allowed to do something to prevent a loss, and that's what the Mishnah talked about on Beis and Aleph. But we're also discussing that you're not allowed to do such a tircha, such an exhaustive effort. Something that's pretty easy you're allowed to do, as well as the concept of something we're afraid of drying up, and then it's going to cause a lot of tircha later, and you're going to come to have to water in different ways that we're also going to forbid to begin with. So, for example, collected waters in a well, that's a problem. Rainwater is also a problem, either as a gzera or also comes to tircha. Streams are generally okay. We're just sometimes worried about them drying up. Pools of water, we're also worried about drying up. At one field to dripping into a pool, from there to a different field, we're going to say that's going to be okay. And watering vegetables in order to eat them on Chol Moed is going to be fine. The Gemara begins the Chudas Bishlam Kilon. I understand with the well water, there's a very large puddle, Ikatircha Yasira. I understand why that's forbidden on Chol Moed, because you're drawing something out of a deep well. So that's forbidden because tircha is a lot of exhaustive effort. Ella Megishamim. Why is the rainwater forbidden? My ika. Why is taking some of the rainwater, which just comes on its own, allowing it to flow from one place to the other? You take your hand, your foot, a bucket, whatever, to make it flow from one place to the other. That should be fine to water the field, because that's pretty easy. On Rabbi Ila, on Rabbi Yochanan, Gezerah Megashama to make kilo. The first opinion is because of the Gezerah. They said if you're going to do the rainwater, then it might come to collect in one spot, and there'll be a lot of tircha to draw it out from one place to another place, just like a well. And sometimes rainwater doesn't just keep streaming along the way, and is very easy to move around. In fact, sometimes it collects in one spot and becomes a gigantic puddle or a very deep well, and it's just like the meikilon, and that would be forbidden. That's why it means in the Mishnah you're not allowed to use rainwater, because rainwater is, when it falls in the situation of a deep hole, then that's just like the well. They're arguing about the concept of Rabbi Zera. Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amr Shmuel, Rabbi Zera, of course it's from Shmuel. If you have a stream that's coming from a big swamp, you're allowed to use that to water a field on Chol Moed. Mar Eled Rabbi Zera, Mar Eled Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera seems not to be worried about any gezerah about things coming to tircha, drying up and then making a big tircha. And the opinion is not worried about making a gezerah, it's only because the Megashamim actually are involving tircha when it falls in that situation. So he accepts Rabbi Zera, and the opinion that says we make a gezerah, the first opinion over here, we made a gezerah, is assuming not like Rabbi Zera, because Rabbi Zera did not make a gezerah, and he made a gezerah. If you have a streaming river that's coming from a big pond, you're allowed to use that to water a field in Chol Moed. We have a challenge, Rabbi Yirmiyah, we have a challenge, lo meigasham lo meikilin. You're not allowed to use rainwater, you're not allowed to use the well water. Why are you not use the rainwater? Obviously, there's the gezerah, we're afraid that's going to come to tircha. So shouldn't we worry about this stream coming from a swamp? It's going to dry up and it's going to lead to tircha. I'm going to Rabbi Yirmiyah Bari, my son Yirmiyah, don't worry. Honey, agamim the Bavel kamayadolo paskidam. The swamps of Bavel and the streams that are coming from there are endless, and they don't stop, and you're not worried about those drying up on Chol Moed. Then consider that like they're not stopping. A big pool of water, a pool of water not used to water the field because it could dry up on Chol Moed. If there's a stream of water comes somewhere else, that's fine, because streams don't generally dry up. That's as long as the stream is strong enough that in one day or one time you could use the amount of water in the stream to water your field, or majority of the field. And that means we're not worried that you're going to come to an exhaustive effort, because basically it's all taken care of by the stream. Even if there's not a majority of field covered by the stream's water, since the water continues to flow, you're not really worried. Mimer Amar, he's going to say to himself, if he doesn't drink, if the water is not enough to quench the field one time, well, Tisha the tray taught the Yom, it'll take care of it in 2 or 3 days. If you have a rainwater field that is on a hill, and there's a spring at the top, and the spring is watering the top field, and then over there it spills into a pool, and the pool waters the second field. So usually you're not allowed to water things from a pool into a field. However, since the source of that pool is coming from a field, and that source of that field is coming from a spring, well, then that's going to be fine. So that's what it says. If it's dripping from for the top field to the pool to the bottom field, you're allowed to use it to water the bottom field. It might stop up and it might dry up, and that's a problem. As long as it's dripping, then we're not concerned. It's drying up. It has to be that the spring hasn't dried up and is continuing to flow, and that's why it's all taken care of. You're not worried about drying up. If you have two gardens right next to each other, one above the other, you shouldn't draw from the bottom one to water the top one. You shouldn't, even in one garden, draw from the lower part to water the upper part, because it's a lot of effort. When you're allowed to draw water to pour it on the vegetables, the vegetable plants, in order to eat them. So this way it should be better. This way when you're gonna pluck them on Chomoed to eat them, that'll be fine. Usually photon, also if it's just to make them enhance and better, so you should better plant for later, that's a problem. Ravina Rabba were walking down the street. They saw a person who was drawing a bucket of water on Chomoed. Rabba turned to Ravina and said, why don't you put him in excommunication? But the Bryce says you're allowed to draw water in order to eat the vegetables. Who said that means to draw water? Madlin means to draw water for the vegetables. My madlin, what in fact does it mean? Shalufe, it means just to pull out some vegetables. You can grab some out of it. If there's a whole bunch in a row, then you're allowed to take some out to eat them. But you're not allowed to water them. As we have in a different mission, the use of the term meidel to talk about pulling things out and harvesting them. If you have a grapevine that you give some for yourself, you take as a balbais, and some you have to give to the poor. So you're allowed to remove some, just like you take it for the betterment of the crop from your own. You could also do that by the poor people. That's Rabbi Yehuda's been in Rabbi Meir says you're not allowed to do that by the poor people's stuff. You have to let them take their own stuff. But even though you're doing it for the betterment of the crop, that's what Rabbi Yehuda allowed. But however, the price is explicit, not just in say madlin that you can just take some. So it means taking vegetables and harvesting them. No, it says madlin mayim. You're allowed to draw some water for the Yeraka Gidei Lachlan to pour it on the vegetables to make them better, so you can eat them and pick them on Chomoed to eat them. If the price says so, then that's opposite correct.